All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to CR. All right, if you all could stand on your feet, please. And if you put your left foot in, I'm just kidding. All right. Hope you all had a wonderful day. Y'all excited, ready to worship together? Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, here we go. Let's get started. Voice of thunder. Your voice it thunders, the oaks start twisting, the forest sounds with cedars breaking, the waters see you and start their writhing, from the depths the song is rising. Now it's rising from voice it thunders, the ground is shaking, the mighty mountains now are trembling. Creation sees you and starts composing, the fields and trees they start rejoicing. Now it's rising from the ground. Amen. Y'all may have a seat.
Ho! You may have a seat. Golly, what a great crowd we have tonight. Welcome to Celebrate Recovery. We have been filming a new movie. We're making a new Celebrate Recovery movie, and we've had several of the True Purpose guys involved in that tonight, so things are going real well. In fact, we'll show a little video next week. I hope you'll be here next week. I want to welcome everybody. My name is Parker Benson, and I do the Celebrate Recovery ministry here. I am an alcoholic. I've been sober for 26 years, and I give the glory and the grace to God, or however you say that. I want you to know, if you are a newcomer, if this is your first evening, we always welcome the newcomer. We all who are in recovery remember when we first stepped into that. I have a Bible verse I read this morning. I think we have that on a slide. John 13, love one another. Jesus said, I give you a new command, love one another. Just as I have loved you, you are also to love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. And that's what we do at Celebrate Recovery. If this is your first night, I want you to know that you're in a place where everybody loves you. I promise you, I know most everybody here, and we do love each other, and we love you. And if you're trying to change your life, if you're unhappy with the way your life is going, the direction it's going, if you're not happy with who you are, I encourage you to come to Celebrate Recovery. We will love you and love each other. We have lovely flowers out here this morning or this evening, irises. I told them Sunday at church, that's my wife's favorite flower, an iris. And we went to a marriage retreat one time, and first they polled all the husbands, or the wives. They said, what is your husband's favorite sport? And my wife turned to me and she said, football. Right? And I said, that's right, honey. And then they polled all the husbands. They said, what is your wife's favorite flower? And I looked at her, I said, it's Pillsbury, isn't it? We had a great marriage retreat. I tell you what, I'm happy it's summer. We had hot dogs tonight. Let's give Amelia and the kitchen a hand. The weather, gosh, it was 85 degrees today. We got great weather. I went to the Dairy Queen. Some of you know on Wednesdays I like to go over there. It's the first time I've been to Dairy Queen because we hadn't had good weather. And I had a blizzard, but they don't have, they need help over there. They told me they're hiring. I mean, they were slow. By the time I got my blizzard, it was a flurry. I mean, but I tell you the truth, they are hiring. I told the lady, I said, I'll pass that on to everybody I know. If you need a job, now I'm serious. They need hardworking people, somebody that'll make a blizzard quick. The Dairy Queen is hiring. And the election is over. Are you glad the election's over? Everybody glad that's over with? I'm really glad when they get all those signs down, you know. I voted for mayor. I voted for Oscar Mayer. And for sheriff, I thought that'd be nice. You know, you have Mayor Meyer. And for sheriff, I voted for Matt Dillon. I didn't think this would work because nobody knows Matt Dillon anymore. But I do. And a few of you do. I think that would be neat. You know, yeah, Matt Dillon. Because then we could say, welcome to Maryville, starring James Arnells as Matt Dillon. Okay. I do. I keep trying. But I don't need to try tonight because we have one of the best speakers we've ever had at Celebrate Recovery. Dr. Stephen Lloyd is here tonight. And I'm going to introduce him in just a few minutes, but we are very honored to have Dr. Stephen Lloyd, and we're going to change the order of worship. After I pray, we're going to have the invocation, and then we'll greet each other. We'll do the 8 principles, and during the 8 principles, we will take the offering and release the children to children's worship. So it's going to go quickly. I'll pray, we'll greet each other, we'll do the 8 principles. Who's doing the 8 principles? Where is he? There he is. Tell us your name. Trey. Let's give Trey a hand. Trey will lead us in the 8 principles, and the ushers will take the offering while we're doing that, and then I'll introduce Dr. Lloyd, and we'll turn it over to him. You're in for a great night. You really are. Let us pray. Holy God, we thank you for this evening. and for bringing us to this evening. And Father, we always do pray for the newcomer, the person who is here tonight and doesn't know what to do, doesn't have faith or hope that he or she can change or that things can go better. But Lord, we know they can. There's a lot of people here tonight who are living proof that, oh yeah, you can. You can do all things through Christ. And we appeal to you that you will work in our lives and in the lives of whomever is here tonight is wanting help. God, help us. And we pray this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. Please stand and greet each other as we do the 8 principles. Come on.
All right, guys, I'm going to try to do these 8 principles right quick. Sweet. Yeah, go Preds. Yeah, I'm Trey. I'm with True Purpose Ministries. I've been with True Purpose for about 6 months. I'm 18. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah, Roll Tide. Yeah, but in August, I'm going to leave, and I'm going to go to school of ministry in Bethel in Redding, California. Yeah, the Lord's really blessed me with all my brothers at True Purpose and like support groups like Celebrate Recovery. And I just really want to use my testimony to help other people. Right now, I'm trying to seek finance for my trip and for my school. So if you guys could pray for me when you get a chance, that'd be sweet. But I'm going to read these and start with principle 1. You guys can read the Bible verse after I read the principle. Principle 1, realize I'm not God, and I admit that I am powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing, and that my life is unmanageable. Principle 2 is earnestly believe that God exists, that I matter to him, and that he has the power to help me recover. Principle 3, consciously choose to commit all my life to Christ and my will to Christ's care and control. Principle 4 is openly examine and confess my faults to myself, to God, and to someone I trust. Voluntarily submit to every change God wants to make in my life and humbly ask him to remove my character defects. Evaluate all my relationships, offer forgiveness to those who have hurt me, and make amends for harm I've done to others, except when to do so would harm them or others. Reserve a daily time with God for self-examination, Bible reading, and prayer in order to know God and his will for my life, and to gain the power to follow his will. Yield myself to God to be used to bring this good news to others, both by my example and by my words. All right, thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Trey. The children are dismissed. If you would like to go to children's worship at this time, we have our children's leader back there. Let me tell you a little about Dr. Stephen Lloyd. He is the former medical director of the Tennessee Department of Mental Health Division of Substance Abuse Services. He has made hundreds of presentations across Tennessee on drug addiction and served as an advisor on Governor Bill Haslam's $30 million plan to battle the opioid epidemic. Dr. Lloyd knows the pain of addiction firsthand. In 2004, as a practicing internist in his hometown of Johnson City, he became addicted to prescription drugs. He says, "My own experience dealing with shame helped me connect with people who I would have never been able to reach if it was not for my own experience. The more we can bring addiction out of the shadows, the more people and families will be healed. Tennessee is leading the way at the local and national level, and we're seeing real change." Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Stephen Lloyd.
Thank you. Sorry about this, guys. Hang on, let everything settle. I'll start my clock. I'm a little nervous, and I usually don't get nervous, but if you look at the program agenda tonight, at least the ones they handed me, they have me listed as sermon. There's a lot of irony in that, and I promise you, hopefully this will not be a sermon. Did my slide? Oh, I see them up there. All right. Guys, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here tonight. Karen and I, first of all, I want to say my wife Karen's with me tonight. She's back on the back row. She always hides. And I always love it when Karen comes, and you know, when I do this talk, I talk a lot about going through my own addiction, and sometimes, you know, I've walked through it so many times, I forget about the pain that other people went through as a result of that. And Karen, if there's anything like that tonight, I'll just let you know up front. I'm sorry about it. I'll do the best I can going forward, which is all I can do. You can't, you know, the stuff is in the past. I have to be able to let that go. And then my amends is a daily amends. And so sorry for that. And I have another friend here tonight. He's up top on the walking track, Greg Bostic. Greg and I went to University of Tennessee together in the 1980s. And Greg and I did a lot of sinning together. And so, Greg, thanks for coming. I can't see you because of the lights, but I trust it that you're up there. And I love you too, bud. And guys, I can't tell you how excited I am to be here. Karen and I drove up from Nashville just now, and I had no idea, because I've spoken in a lot of meetings, CR meetings, AA meetings, and the such, and it's normally a speaker meeting, so I normally don't come in and have bright lights and the band and you know, the big screen. So tonight what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to pass along something to you guys that helped me. Because when I got into, you know, when I had my own drug addiction, I really thought I was just a piece of crap. I thought, that had some kind of moralistic hole in me that I couldn't recover from. I didn't have any idea that I had a real disorder in my brain. I didn't have any idea at all that there was very good help for it. And the majority of that help winds up being spiritual. And I'm a physician. I'm a practicing internal medicine doc. And we're scientists. We don't believe in anything else. And I can tell you for sure that there's a spiritual component to every single disease that I can think of. There's a spiritual component to diabetes, hypertension. It doesn't matter. I used to have cancer patients that would be, you know, stage 4 cancer and you know, have 6 months to live. But if they were in support groups and they were connected with other human beings, they lived longer. Now, I can't explain that. I don't have a double-blind, placebo-controlled study to explain it. I just know what I saw. And the reason for that is that we're built for connection. God built us for connection. If you don't believe me, what do we do when people get in trouble? We take them out of society and we isolate them. We put them in jail, right? And what do we do if they get in trouble in jail? We isolate them even further by putting them in solitary confinement. So we're taking away the thing that we were made for, to punish people. And it works. We are made to be in relationship. And guys, the opposite of addiction is not recovery. The opposite of addiction is relationship. And I'm going to explain that to you tonight. And it's what people in this church are doing. I come in here, look at how many people are here. We're supposed to be a sad lot. Some of us have legal problems. Some of us have done things that are, you know, in our minds that are just unforgivable. Yet you come in here and people are laughing and smiling and having a good time, and you know, we're not out chasing the pill, we're not out chasing the needle, whatever it is that we used to do. And if you come in my hospital in Johnson City back when I was still up there, doctors are a gloom lot. I mean, it's the most sad bunch of people I've ever been around in my life. If you come in my hospital in Johnson City, look around at the doctors you're going to see walking the hallways. All of them look like somebody just shot their dog, okay? Except for me. I look like this all the time. This is my life. And if you think about it, I've got stuff in my past that should just absolutely, in most people's eyes, drag me down. And I promise you that it is the very reason that I have a smile on my face today. So hopefully I can explain to you how all this works. So I can tell you that in 1999, when I graduated medical school, I went to East Tennessee State University. When I graduated medical school, we had an award at graduation called the Gold Humanism in Medicine Award. And it was the award that went to the graduating students who, based on their peers, your classmates, delivered the most kind, compassionate, and non-judgmental care to their patients. And my classmates gave that to me. It's still the most proud thing that I've ever been honored with. And that is really me. I mean, I do care. I always have. I just got sidetracked for a few years in my addiction. And that was 1999. Fast forward to 2004, May of 2004, I was in Orange Beach, Alabama. I was using 500 milligrams of Lortab, Percocet, OxyContin a day. Okay, so put that in Vicodin terms. That's 100 Vicodin every day. Not 100 milligrams, 100 pills. Okay, and there's a lot of Tylenol in those, so I always preferred OxyContin back in the day because it didn't have Tylenol in it, because I wanted to make sure, my liver was okay. Well, kind of thinking that was. Jeez, some of that stuff's embarrassing. All right. So we're going to the beach, Orange Beach, which is where we go on vacation with my best friend, and our whole family's there. It's like 17 or 18 of us. So when we go on a week, I need 700 pills. That's a lot of pills even for me. And some of you who had a pill problem, think of what you did if you had your own script pad. You had your own DEA number, and I had that, all right? So I really didn't have to spend a lot of money on it. I had ways I could get it. So I got my hands on 700 pills, and we take off to the beach. Now, when I get down there, all I got to do, is take 100 pills a day. I'm going to be fine. We'll be able to enjoy my vacation. So what I do? I got 700 in front of me. I'm going to take a bunch today. I won't take as many tomorrow, right? Because tomorrow's not going to get here. And that's just the thinking that, that I had. And I ran out on Thursday. So I took 700 pills in between Sunday and Thursday. And so I know I'm getting ready to be dope sick for the next 3 days. And the first time I was ever dope sick, I didn't know what it was. And I'd been to medical school and residency, didn't have a clue that I was dope sick. So that ought to tell you what our education's like when it comes to some of these things that we're dealing with. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be dope sick, and I don't want to be dope sick. I'm in South Alabama. Surely to gosh, I can find a pill mill around here. Right? All I can do is drive around to a bunch of doctors' offices, look for some cars in the parking lot with out-of-state plates, the hood up, a couple of people asleep in the back seat, a bunch of cigarettes and energy drinks on the ground. I found my spot, right? I know what I'm looking for, and I swear I drove around to 4 offices. I didn't find one of them that fit the bill. So I'm headed back to our condo, and I get to the main drag there in Orange Beach, and literally, if it wasn't for the condos, my kids are right across the street playing on the beach with their friends. And I wheel into this pharmacy, and I'm sitting there in that pharmacy thinking, okay, number one, I could write a prescription for myself, but the DEA tracks that, so I'd get caught, and I don't want to deal with that. And then I got the idea that I'm going to rob the pharmacy. Okay, now I'm an East Tennessee boy. I got a lot of guns. I still have them. I ain't never shot anything, but I got a bunch of guns. So I'm sitting there, I have the means, I have the mindset. Thank God I didn't do it, right? I want to know how I went from that guy in 1999 to this guy in 2004, because I didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I think I'll be a drug addict. I think that's the direction I need to go. Because I grew up in rural East Tennessee. I was the first one from my family to ever go to college. Nobody ever even thought about going to med school. And I had all that. I drove cars that I didn't, as a little boy, I always wanted a Trans Am that Burt Reynolds drove in Smokey and the Bandit. That's my dream car. So, if I wanted that, I could have had that. Everything that I ever wanted, I already had. Yet I had this issue with addiction that I didn't want anybody to know about, and it didn't matter if I was a doctor. It didn't matter at all. So I'm seeing patients every day. I'm teaching medical students and residents. I'm going about my life, and I'm using 100 pills a day. And I'm sitting in this parking lot thinking about robbing a pharmacy. And I thank God for, we talk about this in 12-step meetings at times, that moment of clarity. I had a moment of clarity. And the moment of clarity told me I couldn't recover from it. So I was dope sick for the next 3 days. Karen had to drive all the way back to our home in Johnson City. And I miraculously got better, 10 minutes after getting home, because I had a buddy drop pills off at my house. And that's where I was in my life. So it's really been a quest of mine for the last, almost 14 years now, to figure out how in the world that happened. And I'm going to try to explain it to you tonight, because I promise you, those of you in the audience with addiction, this is you. This is your brain. This is what happens in your brain. And I'm going to try my best to explain to you how you got where you are, because when I figured this out, it kind of lifted a burden off of me. lifted a burden off of me that I wasn't this piece of crap that I thought I was, that there was really something wrong with me, and that there was a way to treat it, and I had about 100% chance to get better if I just did it. And, you know, if you hand somebody a 100% chance to get better if they got pancreatic cancer, I'll bet you they'll do it, okay? Addiction is just as deadly as pancreatic cancer, guys. I lose friends every day to this disease, every single day, and I'm tired of losing them, and they're always young. You know, now we've got, you know, the Surgeon General just recommended the everyday citizen carry Narcan with them in your pocket, like, you know, like your wallet. We have so many people overdosing that the Surgeon General recommends that we carry Narcan with us. We lost 63,000 Americans last year to drug overdoses. To put that in perspective, we lost 58,000 soldiers in all of Vietnam in more than 10 years. We lose it every single day. All right, so I'm sick and tired of watching this, and I'm absolutely not going to stay in the shadows any longer, and I haven't for a long time. All right, so, here we are. Sorry. This is me. I don't receive commercial support. Y'all didn't pay me to be here tonight, although somebody gave me a CR recovery Bible, and I'm grateful for that, so thank you. I was a medical director for the State of Tennessee Department of Substance Abuse before I took my current job. I'm currently the medical director at a inpatient treatment facility in Murfreesboro, Tennessee called Journey Pure. I've been an expert witness for all of those alphabet soups right there. So guys, I was a guy that was diverting drugs. I was using on the job. I stole drugs from patients, and I wound up working for the TBI, the FBI, the DEA. I mean, what kind of, you couldn't make that up. So the first time I did this talk, I hadn't been out of treatment very long, and I'm teaching doctors about prescribing drugs, and there's a guy sitting about where you're sitting, and he had a little logo on his shirt, and he's watching me the whole time, and afterwards he came up to, because I shared my story, and he came up and he said, Dr. Lloyd, I'm Neil Smith with the United States Attorney's Office. I thought, oh, am I going to jail? And because I told him about all the stuff I did, and he said, no, not yet. He said, we'd like for you to look at being an expert witness for us. We tried 21 doctors in Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, and California. We're 21-0. These are people that write drugs for money, use them to hold over women's head for sex, all those things. And we're 21-0. And you couldn't have dreamed up a life of that. I founded a clinic in Johnson City called High Point Clinic. My interest is in the drug-addicted pregnant patient. And it's the most fun I've ever had in medicine. We got to stop throwing rocks at these young ladies and reach out and love them. I remember the Greene County Drug Court in Greenville, Tennessee, and I was telling my wife this coming in. Guys, if locking people up with addiction worked, we'd build a bunch of jails and we'd lock everybody up. It doesn't work. More than 50% of the people in jail in the state of Tennessee are there for nonviolent drug offenses. And so we can keep incarcerating them, but eventually we're going to go broke. So even if you don't care anything about the people themselves, we're going to go broke. Okay, I happen to care about the people themselves. Drug courts are a great alternative to slamming people in jail and hanging felonies on them. Try getting a job, by the way, if you have a felony. It's impossible. We absolutely have to look at criminal justice reform. 75% of all graduates of drug recovery courts never get rearrested. Put that in your pipe and smoke it for a minute, all right? 75% of all people who graduate from drug recovery courts never get rearrested. And so I think that speaks volumes. In 2014, I was named an advocate for action with the Office of National Drug Control Policy, which is a division of the White House. And so I got to go to the White House. And I'm walking in there, and I was thinking, I was crying. I was coming across the parking lot. And when you go into the White House, there's people with guns like up on top of the building, and they didn't shoot me. And I was very happy about that. And I was really overcome with emotion because that was about 10 years after I finally got my life straight. And it was amazing because 10 years before I was laying in a detox bed in Nashville shaking. I thought my life was over, and now I'm walking into the White House. In the room I was in, I could look across the hallway, and President Obama was sitting at his desk in the Oval Office. And our drug czar at the time was Michael Botticelli, who was 25 years in recovery himself. So we've come a long way. And I'm not guaranteeing you that that's where you go. That's where my life took me. But it was amazing what God did when I decided to get out of his way. I'm an unabashed Tennessee Vol fan. I'm glad to be back in the Knoxville area. I hate Alabama with a passion. And I'm sorry. Most of the people I know that pull for Alabama can't spell Tuscaloosa. Have never been there. So that's beside the point. All right. My son Heath was born in 1994. The quarterback at Tennessee in 94 was Heath Schuler, so of course I named my son after him. It seemed like a logical thing to do. Haley was born in 97. Anybody know the quarterback at Tennessee in 97? That's an easy one. It's Peyton Manning. So I wanted to name Haley Peyton, of course. I have to have Heath and Peyton. And Karen said that would make us more redneck than we already were, and she wouldn't let me do it. And then I've been married to Karen for 28 years. Guys, the biggest problem we have in dealing with addiction is not access to treatment. We have a lot of that, although we need more. It's not more resources, although we can always use them. The biggest problem we have in dealing with addiction is the problem of stigma. And I promise you it happens in this church that we're sitting in. It happens in every church that I know across the state of Tennessee and across the country. I go to First Christian Church in Johnson City. I love my church, but none of us are really worried about where our next meal's coming from. Right? We live pretty comfortable lives. And I promise you, we will sit in our Sunday school class and pray that somebody sells a piece of property. And that's okay, right? But it's not okay when that same person has a kid that's struggling with substance abuse and sits there in shame and won't say anything about it. Because all of us in this room, particularly this room, but any other rooms I'm in a room full of judges. I don't care who it is. 75% of us have been touched by addiction in one way or another in our life. Either friend, family member, coworker, 75%. Yet we'll have people sit there and not say a word, and their family's falling apart at home because they don't want to speak up because of the shame associated with it. We got guys here right now, who are in treatment themselves, and their lives are getting better, but they're scared to death to say something where they are. They're scared somebody will find out because of the shame associated with it. And I just decided I'm not going to do that anymore. This is my hometown. This is Johnson City. I didn't sneak and take this picture. It was in the newspaper, so I didn't do anything underhanded. But this is City Hall in Johnson City, and we had a treatment facility that was going to come to our area. It's actually there now. And it was a cooperation between East Tennessee State University, which is our biggest university, and Mountain States Health Alliance, which is our biggest hospital system. It'd be like UT at home. And so they were going to come together for a comprehensive center for opioid abuse, and they're going to deal with everything prevention all the way to what I call quaternary treatment, which is turning people around with Narcan. We're bringing people back from the dead now, right? Like Lazarus. That's what we do. All right, so that's going to come to this little area called Gray, Tennessee, just north of Johnson City. Now, part of what they're going to do is utilize medication to help people. Doesn't matter what you feel about it one way or another. It helps people detox. It makes their life a little easier, and some people can't do anything else. And used in the right hands, it absolutely saves lives. So that was one little bitty eighth of what they were going to do. Well, these folks decided they didn't want that at all. They didn't want it in their community. I can't tell you how many churches are in that community. I'll guarantee you a lot, right? That's where I grew up. And I'm not saying anything about it. I'm just saying that we have to be careful that we don't stigmatize people and push them out here, right? They have to feel welcome. There's not a single religious text in the world that doesn't talk about loving your neighbor. I don't care which one it is, Old Testament, New Testament, Quran, it doesn't matter. They all talk about loving your neighbor. And I'm telling you this, if Jesus walked the earth today, he wouldn't be hanging out with the tax collectors. They've gone up and, they've progressed since the days of Zacchaeus. All right. Jesus would be hanging around people with addiction. I'll guarantee it. Guys, this is the number one health problem in the United States. And these are the people that Jesus would have hung around, I promise you. And we'd have still killed him anyway. But that's just our mindset. This guy has a sign here that says, not among our schools. Well, I got news for you. It's already in your school. I know that school, and I promise you it is. The thing about this slide that really chaps me is right here. There's 3 little girls there, look like they're about age 10, somewhere in that area, although I'm terrible with ages as I get older, but they look like to me they're about that old. And I guarantee you they don't know what's on their signs. Mom and Dad wrote it on there. And the other thing is I know how prevalent addiction is in this area, so I know that over the course of their life, one of these 3 little girls will have this issue. We got to stop passing their hate along to the generation behind us, guys. It doesn't do anybody any good. And I really, this picture absolutely breaks my heart. I think that addiction is this generation's HIV disease and AIDS. Those of I love looking around because it's hard to see with the lights here, but I see some balding heads and I definitely see some white heads. Okay, and I love that because when I'm teaching in med school now, my students were born in the 1990s, which really turns my stomach, right? But they don't remember anything about HIV disease and AIDS in the 80s, and those of you in the room with balding hair and gray hair do. And you remember back in the 80s when you found out somebody had HIV disease and AIDS, what was the first thing people said? How'd they get it? Right? Everybody, why did they want to know that? Because if you were an intravenous drug user or a homosexual male, you kind of brought it on yourself. And I really don't have to worry about it because I'm not either one of those two things. And I'm telling you guys, that's really, really dangerous ground to walk on right there. Because if we all got what we deserved, and many of us be sitting in this room, right? So this picture right here is credited with changing the face of AIDS in the United States. And if you look back at HIV disease and AIDS back then, it was a death sentence, but you had some groups like ACT UP, Marched on Washington, said fast track our drugs. You had a kid named Ryan White who got it from a blood transfusion. And then you can never underestimate the impact that Irvin Magic Johnson, the NBA basketball player who came out with HIV disease in the early 90s. And he said, I'm going to live. And people laughed. You said, you'll be dead in 5 years. Well, Magic owns the Dodgers, and I saw him on the TV last year in the World Series, and he don't look like he's missed many meals. So, he's doing really well. The truth of the matter is that we got rid of the stigma associated with HIV disease and AIDS. People started to live. When's the last time you read an article on it? You haven't. Right? It's not an issue, not that much of an issue anymore. This picture is credited with changing the face of it in the United States. This is David Kirby. He was born in Central Ohio. He went to California as a college student, acquired the HIV virus, and came home to die. He died several hours after this picture was taken. Look at the picture of his dad's face. Do you think his dad cared how he got it? Absolutely not. The parents that we have, we lose 4.5 Tennesseans a day to drug overdose. We lost 4.5 today. Time I get done tonight, we'll have lost 1 in the evening. Somebody in our state will have died of drug overdose. Those parents don't care about anything other than the fact that they're losing their kid. I talked to a lady not long ago who had to do CPR on her own son in his bed in Brentwood, Tennessee, and that's Williamson County. Those of you not familiar with the area, Williamson County is the most affluent county in the state of Tennessee. Okay, I can't afford to live there. All right, these are where the football players and the hockey players and the country music stars live. She had to do CPR on her son, Alex, in his own bed. He died of a heroin overdose. Now, there's a list of things that mommies should not have to do in the world, and at the top of that list is CPR on their own kid. I think that addiction is this generation's HIV disease and AIDS. I fully believe that, and I think the parallels are amazing. And I love that look of the dad's face right there. What's the picture that changes the face of addiction? I think it's this one. I think it's the drug-dependent baby. When I first got started, there were 2 groups of people that I really wanted to target. One were the incarcerated folks. Our criminal justice system is set up to keep these folks in the system. And if you don't believe it, find some of these guys here for True Purpose and let them tell you about their experiences. I promise you that they're trapped in the system and they can't get out. It's designed to keep them in it. And that's the first group I wanted to look at. The second group were pregnant women. The truth of the matter is for the most part in our state, a lot of times I think that we just believe in locking people up. And so I've really concentrated on babies over the past 4 or 5 years. But right now, I'm shifting more and more of that to start talking about our folks who are in the criminal justice system, because we're literally saddling folks with the stuff that they can't get out from under. We're not loving them like we should, and they have hopes and dreams of raising their own families. And I think that we need to give them a hand up instead of locking them up. I think that this is the picture that changes the face of addiction. All right. I got to make sure. They gave me 25 minutes. I got a lot in 25 minutes. All right, so first thing we got to do, we've got to shake out the difference between dependence and addiction. And I've already seen the slide up here that CR put up, and it's spot on. Guys, I can get anybody in this room dependent in 14 days. I don't care if you're a teetotaler. It doesn't matter. All I got to do is give you a pain pill 3 times a day for 14 straight days. At the end of that 14 days, I promise you're going to be dependent. If I abruptly stop the medication, you're going to go through what's called a predictable physiologic withdrawal syndrome, i.e. you're going to get dope sick. Okay? Does that mean you're an addict? Nope, that means you're a human being. I could do it to the Pope, Elvis, it don't matter. Okay? Now, what is addiction? Addiction is the use despite adverse consequences. That is the definition of addiction. I work in a treatment facility. I get people that come on, particularly with alcohol. Well, I don't have a problem, Doc. Okay, I only drink on the weekends. I only drink after 5 o'clock. I never drink alone. I still have a job. Okay, all right. Sounds like you might not have a problem. I only drink wine. I don't drink beer. I only drink beer. I don't drink wine or liquor. I never drink liquor. I only drink beer or wine. I get that all the time. What'd your wife think of it? She left me. What'd she leave you for? Said I drank too much. Where are your kids at? I haven't talked to them in 2 years. Why not? Well, they don't like me when I'm drinking, and I've had 2 DUIs. Is my guy an alcoholic? Of course he is, because he has continued use despite adverse consequences. The second DUI tells me that. Those of you that go into treatment centers, when you get there, they ask you this great big long list of questions, try to figure out if you got an addiction problem, right? I always laugh at that. Have you been to jail twice? Yep, you're addicted. You are. That's continued use despite consequences, and I'm going to bat about 850 there, guys. I'll take 850 to the track. All right, so the second DUI. The first DUI could have been an accident. Too much to eat, not enough to eat with the dinner, maybe too much wine, maybe you're a lady, you don't metabolize alcohol. It's not okay. It just happens. Second DUI, different story altogether. Why? Because number one, you spent 48 hours in jail, every state in the United States. Number two, it cost you $10,000 for an attorney at least. And number three, we took your picture and we put it in the busted paper and sold it at the mini mart. So we publicly shamed you, all right? Guys, that is the definition of addiction. Now, the hallmark of addiction is the phenomena of cravings. And I want you to understand this, guys. This is really important. Okay, this is really important. The difference between dependence and addiction is cravings. The person who's just dependent, after 14 days, they go through being dope sick, they're fine. They're going about their lives. Those of us with addiction can go 14 days, 6 months, sometimes a year, and then cravings get us. We're back using the same amount that we stopped using before. And it's absolutely true in our brains. I'm going to explain it over the next few slides. And everybody's cravings are the same as your cravings are for food when you're hungry and water when you're thirsty. Okay? Only somebody who's addicted, their craving for their drug of choice is 10 times stronger than your cravings are for food when you're hungry and water when you're thirsty. Think about that. 10 times stronger. I get people all the time say, when they find out I treat pregnant ladies, they say, "Oh, Steve, those women just need to stop using. They just need to put it down. Can't they see what they're doing to their babies?" I always go, "Thank you. That's very helpful." Like, I didn't think of that. Right? I for sure thought of that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because of the phenomena of cravings, guys. And cravings happen as little as 33 milliseconds. That's the time it takes you to blink your eye. So craving is already on top of you before you're even conscious that it's happening. And the guys in here that know, you know exactly, I see you shaking your head, you know what I'm talking about. I've already got it in my hand and using before I realized what the heck happened. Okay? All right. So we talk about the brain here for just a second. All we're doing, I'm looking that way. We've shed all these layers off from outside. We're looking into the left hemisphere of my brain. Two areas I want to talk about. One is buried deep within here. I hate the names of this crap, so we're going to use my names. All right, this is a reward system, the limbic system. It's our go system. Okay? Our go system is responsible for our species going forward in time. That's all that's its main goal. So what does our species have to do to go forward in time? Number one, we've got to live to be reproductive age. Number two, we've got to have sex. Okay? If we do those two things over a long enough period of time and enough people, then our species will continue to go forward in time. Okay? That's our go system. Now, in front of this fissure right here, everything in front is our frontal lobe of our brain. I want you to think of it stop. So this is going to be go versus stop. Go is a species going forward in time. Stop in front of our brain gives us insight and judgment. Okay? Frontal lobe of our brain gives us insight and judgment. So what do we have to do for our species to go forward in time? Number one, we got to live to be reproductive age. How do we do that? Food and water intake, right? Then we have to have sex. So the things that lead our species to going forward in time, that's my 25 minutes, and I'm not going to make it. All right. Sorry. I'm going anyway. To heck with it. All right. All right. So what do we have to do to live to be reproductive? We've got to have food and water. Now, the things that lead our species to going forward in time had better make us feel good or we won't do them. If every time you ate, you threw your toenails up, would you keep eating? Of course not. No. So when you eat, does it feel good? Yeah. Heck yes, it feels good. And so what happens a few minutes after you started? First of all, you have cravings. You smell the food. Now your stomach's rumbling. You're like when y'all came in tonight, I saw y'all woofing hot dogs down. Everybody was hungry. A few minutes after you start eating, your body starts to make its own morphine, its own heroin, its own fentanyl. They're called endorphins and enkephalins. And those endorphins and enkephalins are released. I'm going to show you the next part. Sorry. This part of our brain right here, the go system, these endorphins and enkephalins attach to the opioid receptors in this area of your brain, and it leads to the downstream release of something called dopamine. And everybody in the room loves dopamine, right? It gives you that overall sense of well-being. And how do you feel right after you eat? Fat, happy, and satisfied, right? So God made us that way. He knows that our species has to go forward in time. He knows what we have to do that. This is the mechanism that He set up for that to happen. Does sex feel good? Yes, it does. Okay, if it didn't, if every time you did it, you threw your toenails up, you would stop having sex, our species would not go forward in time. I realize I'm talking about sex in church. I'm sorry. But that's the way we're set up, guys, and that's how our species goes forward in time. This area of our brain, this is the area of our brain that's hijacked by our drugs of choice, whether it's alcohol, methamphetamine, opioids, it doesn't matter. Heroin, doesn't matter. Now, think about this. This is a part of our brain that is responsible for our will to live. How strong is our will to live? It's unbelievable. If we taped this room off, got rid of all the food and water, after we drank each other's urine, okay, after that was all done, we would start looking around to see which one of us we were going to eat first. That's exactly what would happen. That's how strong our will to live is. So those of you in the room that have substance abuse problems, have you ever done anything really, really crazy to get your drug? Have you ever done anything so bad that you thought you were unforgivable for doing it? So I'm going to tell you about mine. I took drugs from a dying cancer patient in the next room. Right? And it wasn't just any dying cancer patient. It was my favorite professor from med school. So he's dying of metastatic lung cancer to his bones, all over his body. His wife's cleaning him up. He lost control of his bowel and bladder. I'm in his bathroom taking his OxyContin. Why in the world would I do that? Because I thought I would die without it. What have you done? What have you done to get your drug? Stole from your kids, stole from your family, stole from other people, prostituted yourself. Why'd you do that? Because if you thought if you didn't have it, you'd die. Guys, this is absolutely physiological in your brain. You're not a piece of crap. I promise you. I promise you. All right, so the frontal lobe of our brain. You know what the reward system of our brain does? The frontal lobe of our brain gives us insight and judgment, okay? And insight and judgment are pretty important. So we all agree, food, water, sex are good things, right? Okay. Can you think of some instances where they may not be good things? I can. Anybody ever tried to lose weight? Right? That's really hard, right? So in February of 2017, I weighed about 235 pounds. This morning, I weighed, well, if you saw the picture out there, I mean, right? You saw him, big boy. Looked like Philip Fulmer right out there. Sorry, Coach Fulmer. I love Coach Fulmer. Bowing homage. I weighed about 190 this morning. And what I decided to do is that when I turned 50, I wanted to get in shape and lose weight and diet and exercise. And so I've done that. And I do it every day. Every day I work out in the gym, I burn about 800 calories. And on the way home from my gym is a Krispy Kreme donut. And guys, there's a lot of things I love in the world. Krispy Kreme donut is at the top of that list. And so I get out of the gym, I burned 800 calories, I'm sweating like crazy, I've already got my workout in, I'm driving, I look over, I see the Krispy Kreme, they're blowing the Krispy Kreme smell out into the street because they're trying to trigger my cravings, right? Trying to trigger my reward system. And what's the reward system of my brain tell me? Got to have Krispy Kreme donuts, right? I remember the last time I eat them, I have a connection to them. It's emotional. I'm invested. That's the reward system of my brain. But I've got a fully functioning frontal lobe of my brain that gives me insight and judgment, and I'm trying to get in shape and lose weight. So I have a goal out there. I have a place that I want to get to. So the frontal lobe of my brain that gives me insight and judgment says, hang on a second, Steve. Each one of those Krispy Kreme donuts is 220 calories and it's 20 grams of fat. That's actually true. And that would be fine except for you're going to eat 4. That's 880 calories, 80 grams of fat. You just burned 800 calories, so you're already in the hole. So now I can drive past the Krispy Kreme donut because I have a fully functioning frontal lobe and I can make a decision. Guys, we do this every day. All of us. Think of how many instances this happens that we get to pick a path that we want to take. And I'm doing fine. And then somebody inside flips on the hot donuts now sign. I'm right in there ordering the Krispy Kreme. Right? They know how to trigger this in their brain, and our entire marketing system in this country is set up on that. But guys, that's how it works. And I promise you this is important addiction because these two areas of our brain are not connected neurologically until we're 25 if we're a man and 23 if we're a woman. Okay? So when I'm in women's jails and prisons all the time, I tell the women, don't date any dude under 25. Why? Because he's just driven by this right here and has no insight and judgment about anything else. And ladies, I realize you can make that argument about all of us regardless of our age. I get it. But for the most part, this is true. Okay, don't date any dude under 25. What's that got to do with drug addiction? This is what it has to do with drug addiction. These connections and their development in between these two areas of our brain are arrested at time of first drug use. What does that mean? That means I got a guy in front of me who's 35 years old and he's addicted. And I'm talking to him and he's making decisions like a 14-year-old. And I'm getting madder by the second. First of all, when I find myself doing that, stop doing it. It doesn't work. If it worked, I'd open up a clinic, we'd bring everybody in and get mad at him. Okay? So it doesn't work. So I stopped and I said, how old were you when you started using? I was 14. Okay. I know how to deal with that. Right? I know how to deal with a 14-year-old. Now, you got that? You understand why that matters? Yeah. Right? Doesn't matter what your age is. If you don't remember anything else, you don't take away anything from my talk tonight, take away this slide right here. This top row of brains are normal brains. This is PET scans of brains. Don't get intimidated by PET scans. All they do is look and see where sugar goes. You remember from high school biology class, all the cells in our body work on sugar, right? So those top row of brains are normal brains, okay? See all the red and yellow uptake. The frontal lobes are up here at the top, parietal lobes, occipital lobes back here. This second row of brains right here are brains that have been detoxed for 10 days. So I bring you into my clinic, bring you into the hospital, you're a heroin addict, and I detox you for 10 days. And I say, all right, have a good life. And I send you out. This is what his brain looks like. What do you see in the frontal lobes? Nothing. And that's only important if you care about insider judgment. If you don't care anything about insider judgment, it doesn't matter. So I've taken somebody, I've gotten the drugs out of them, I've set them right back out on the street with no insider judgment, none at all. What are their chances of success? 0. They're none. They will fail 100% of the time. And the guys in the room have been through detox multiple times and back on the street. How'd it work? Exactly what I'm telling you right here. Now, here's the crazy thing. This is what insurance companies pay the most for. They pay the most for something that totally doesn't work. And then things like True Purpose, which does work, you have to fight them tooth and nail, if at all. It's the most amazing thing to me. This bottom row of brains are brains that have been detoxed for 100 days, 3 months. So you start to see some insight and judgment coming back. How long does it take to fully come back? This is important for my guys in the room who are going through treatment right now. Guys, you got to buy into what I'm getting ready to tell you. I promise you it's true. Okay? How long does it take this to go from here to here? Year and a half. It takes 18 months. It takes 18 months. You think you're making decisions that are sound, but you're not. So that's why the community that you surround yourself with, your sponsors, people in Celebrate Recovery, people in your churches matter because they see things that you can't. You think your decision making is great. Your decision making stinks because you don't even have the capacity for insight and judgment, but you don't know it. It's like having somebody with Alzheimer's. They think that they're just fine, right? And they think Truman's the president. I mean, that's not anything against them. That's the way their brain is wired. So those of you that are that early in recovery, please listen to this. That's why community is so important. It's so important to have people in your life that you trust that can help you with their insight and judgment until yours returns and you can do it on your own. All right? If you don't remember anything else, this slide's vitally important. All right, I'm going to whip through the last part of this. That's the genetics of it. That's the biology of it. That's the science of it. But guys, the addiction is more than that. I don't understand the biopsychosocial model, but I darn sure get a slot machine. Okay, I understand that. The bio part is the biology part, and that's the part I just explained to you. Those of you with addiction issues, look at your own family. How many of you come out of families where addiction is prevalent? I'm going to tell you all of you. So you had the genetics to start with. Only 60% of genetics, though, is addiction. The psycho part, that's the first 7 on the pay line. The psycho part is what kind of household did you come out of? Did you come out of a household where you were raised in kind of a normal family? Because no family is really normal. Or did you come out of a household where you were physically, sexually, or emotionally abused? If you came out of a household like that, the second 7 pops down on the pay line. And then the social part is just availability. We're in the middle of an opioid epidemic, guys, and it's not because we got an increasing incidence of addiction in the United States. We don't. We got the same prevalence of addiction right now as we did right after the Civil War. What we do have is an increased access to starting with prescription pain pills. That all started in the 90s and 2000s. And then as those things dried up, people start to switch over to heroin because it's cheaper and it's more available. And that's the guys. They'll tell you, I'm not making this up. So when you have that, there you have addiction. Now, I love this last part because this is why what's happening in this church, this is why Celebrate Recovery is a national movement right now because it absolutely works. Everybody, some of you may be familiar with this, others not. I'll explain it to you. There's a series of experiments done with rats. And what they did was they put these rats in a cage and they gave them the choice to drink cocaine, or not drink cocaine, morphine and water. Morphine's an opioid, just think of it as heroin. So heroin and water and water. What do rats do? The rats drank the morphine and water until they died with fresh water available. And everybody threw their hands up and they go, oh, look how powerful these drugs are. Once people start taking them, they can't stop. That's actually not true. And they're killing people. But some smarter guys came along and said, well, the rat didn't have a whole lot of choices. Right, it had morphine and water or water. What if we gave the rat some other choices? What if we put some sawdust in here? Rats like to dig holes. We put one of these little wheels. Rats love to run on those. We put one of those in there. Cans, rats love to crawl through cans. But more importantly, let's drop a female rat in there. Okay, and let's take those same drug-addicted rats and see if they drink the morphine and water or drink the water. What do they drink? They drank the water. This is known as Rat Park. What churches like this and what the faith-based community can do is help people change their rat park. But we can't do it if we judge them and they never walk in the dang door. Amen. Okay? All right. I love Rat Park. You say, well, Steve, that's rats. Ain't got anything to do with humans. I promise you it does. This is a human rat park. It's called the Vietnam War. And those of you old enough to remember Vietnam will know exactly what I'm talking about. We had senators and congressmen go to Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and we had all these guys addicted to heroin. And they said, oh, gosh, we're going to have treatment programs when these guys come back. I mean, we go over there, and they're shooting needles in their arm, and it's going to be an epidemic when they got back. Yet what happened when they got back? It never materialized. Why? Because we changed their rat park. They're in Southeast Asia in rice paddies up to their elbows, most of them for a cause they didn't believe in, getting shot at. I'd have probably shot heroin too. But then they came back home. They had wives, they had families, they had jobs. They got back into their life, and they dropped the heroin. Guys, most drug addiction just burns out over time. We have to give people the opportunity to get better. And the only way that we can do that is to meet them where they are and love them when they're unlovable, because there's going to be a time they are. I was unlovable. I'm still unlovable at times, right? But with enough time, my frontal lobe will recover. I'll have better insight and judgment. I've surrounded myself with people that I trust. I trust them. They eventually will trust me. And I'll tell the guys this. Y'all will like this. I used to steal drugs from my family members. And we were at one of my family members about 10 years after I got clean and sober at Christmas time, and I noticed that they finally stopped hiding their prescription medication when I come over. It only took 10 years. Now, there's a funny side to that is, it only took 10 years. The other thing is I'm still looking. So I don't know what's wrong with me. But what I have found out is that in general, people are very forgiving. And if I'm open, if I'm honest, if I'm open-minded, if I'm willing to change, I'm willing to listen to others, then I'll get another chance, and I'll get even more chances than just another one. I'll get 3, 4, 5, how many ever chances it takes. And so for the guys here who are still in treatment and the people who are here with Celebrate Recovery, this is what CR does. CR provides you an opportunity to change your rat park. It provides you an opportunity to meet with people who are going to help you when your thinking is not clear, but you have to be willing to open your mind and listen to them. I broke through my 25 minutes, guys. I'm sorry, but I can tell you, I can tell you this. Thank you. I can tell you this. The White House stuff doesn't matter. None of that other stuff matters. What matters is my sobriety date's coming up. It's July 8th. So if I make it till July 8th, it'll be 14 years. Amen. Thank you. But I can tell you this. The beautiful part about that is that my daughter, June the 26th of 2016, got married. And I got to walk her down the aisle. I didn't have somebody pinch hitting for me because I'd lost my family, and I didn't have somebody pinch hitting for me because I'd overdosed and died before she got married. I got to walk her down the aisle. Now, for the dads in the room that have little girls, that's the day you dread the most, right? You dread her, you're going to hand her over to a guy, and it's terrible. You don't want to walk her down the aisle, and I got to do it, and it was awesome. It was one of the best days of my life, and Haley looked so awesome, and she told me right before we walked down the aisle, she said, "Daddy, you're the first man I ever loved," and she kissed me, and, I just came unglued. All right, and I gave her away, and it was awesome. Now, if you want something to not look forward to, dads, I'll tell you this. When she gets in the car and goes to a hotel with that dude at the end of the night, that stinks, okay? So if you want something to... My son Heath is getting ready to be, on June 14th, he'll be 24. He's got a graduate degree, he got his MBA, he played college baseball. I got to be a dad to my children. I got to be a husband to my wife, which is what the folks in addiction want. They're not bad people. I got a little clinic in Johnson City, and I got a next door neighbor from my clinic who comes over and takes pictures of my patients in the parking lot. He's scared they're going to take stuff from his office. All right, he needs to come over and meet them. They're moms and dads that are trying to get help. They're trying to get their lives together. And I got pregnant ladies crying because they got a guy in the parking lot taking pictures. And it's all I can do to not go over and take that camera. And I don't. I want to, though. If I'm honest with you, I really want to. But it's really sad because it has the possibility to push people away. And I really encourage us to not do that. Guys, I thank you for instead of 25, 40 minutes, I thank you for your time. Thanks.
Dr. Lloyd, we really appreciate that. Could you come here for just a second? Y'all go ahead and have a seat. I just happen to think that maybe they have some questions. We're very fortunate to have Dr. Lloyd with us. He is an expert in the field of opioid use and abuse. Do we have any questions for Dr.
Well,
Lloyd?
the word expert worries me. I've got a lot of field experience. So we'll put it at that. Yes, sir.
One question I have is, why is our government not doing more about this opioid epidemic? I mean, were they coming into the country?
What you're talking about, the heroin and fentanyl and such?
Anything like that.
Okay. Well, there's actually a whole lot being done, but we kind of go back a little further, and you look at the war on drugs, and law enforcement's done a great job with that from the supply side. But the deal is that if you have demand, you will have a supply. That's always the case. And so if you look at prescription pills became widely available in the late 90s and early 2000s because we were sold a false bill of goods by the pharmaceutical industry and the FDA, pure and simple. And really, it's criminal. And so we were sold a false bill of goods, and so these pills are widely available. So now we're cracking down on it. And pills in the state of Tennessee have dropped dramatically. Anytime you see it, Governor Haslam has done a great job. Your state legislature has done a wonderful job. Tennessee has led the charge in this and looked at as a leader. But our overdose deaths are going up. Why? Because we haven't done anything about treating the people with the disease. And so the iron will of the market will happen. And so when that happens and the pills become more scarce and the street value gets to a certain level, people can't afford it anymore and they simply turn to heroin, which I can tell you is dirt cheap on the street. And, if you look at really the scourge that scares me is something called black tar heroin. It hasn't really hit Tennessee a lot right now, but it's coming. And black tar heroin is about 75 to 80% pure. For those of you in the room a little older, Janis Joplin died of an overdose of heroin that's 2% pure. So let's look at the difference in purity. And the cartels will target areas with high prescription drug abuse. Columbus, Ohio, Portsmouth, Ohio, Huntington, West Virginia, Knoxville, Tennessee. All right, and so you get to the point where you can't afford the pills or they're not available anymore, then that's what you're looking at. Law enforcement's done a good job with that, but you're not going to have enough agents out there. I mean, the TBI will tell you that, the FBI will tell you that, and the scourge right now is fentanyl. And we're not talking about fentanyl, and gosh, let me talk to everybody in the room on this. We're not talking about fentanyl that comes out of the OR or the ED, right? We're talking about powder fentanyl that's made in China, brought into the United States through Canada and Mexico, and pressed into pills that look just like what we sell. You can't tell the difference. Now, I'm a child of the 80s. This is what got Prince. Prince was addicted to 10 milligram Percocets. Does anybody know what those are called? Come on, somebody over here does. School buses, thank you. You're the first guy that's ever answered that. Thank you. Yes, they're school buses. They're school buses because they're square and yellow, okay? So Prince is addicted to 10. That's all right, man. You didn't tell on yourself. I'll join you. It was my drug of choice. I've taken enough of them to float a battleship. All right. So what Prince did, Prince is addicted to 10 milligram Percocets. He overdoses on an airplane, lands, they reverse him with Narcan. He gets back on the airplane, flies to Minnesota. He starts to get dope sick. He sends for an addiction medicine doctor in California. The guy's flying to him, but he's sick. So he sends his guys to the street to get the 10 milligram Percocet, school buses. They buy him, come back. He took the same amount he's been taking every day, and it killed him. Why'd it kill him? Because it was fentanyl. What's the difference between fentanyl and oxycodone, which is what Percocet is? Oxycodone is 1.5 morphine equivalent. So that means that 1 milligram of oxycodone is 1.5 milligrams of morphine. That's the trade-off. Fentanyl is 100 to 10,000 morphine equivalents. Okay, so in October of this year, the TBI seized 6.9 grams of carfentanil in Rutherford County, Murfreesboro, where I work. I can fit 6.9 grams in my pocket. That's how little that is. That's enough carfentanil to kill half the residents of what county we in? Blount, I'm sorry. That's enough to kill half the people in Blount County. And I can fit it in my shirt pocket. So that's the real challenge. Law enforcement is doing a great job. I work with the TBI. I've worked with all the agents you saw up here. But if we don't increase access to treatment, if we don't get people help, it won't matter.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, back here.
Yeah, what's your take on like methadone and Suboxone treatment? Because we're honestly just trading one for another, and then
Yeah, that's that. I can never get through one of these talks without that. For some people, that's going to be the best that they can do, and it doesn't matter if you like that answer or not. I've done this long enough now that I'm so tired of watching people die that I can't see straight. I believe that everybody deserves abstinence-based recovery. When I get up in the morning, I don't have to worry about going to a methadone clinic. Karen and I are getting ready to go to Europe in a few weeks, and I don't have to worry about how am I going to get dosed with methadone or if I'm going to lose my Suboxone prescription. I think that's a great way to live. With that said, there is a section of the population that will never have anything else, and it will keep them from dying, but that's a pretty low bar. So you guys who are in recovery or who are at, in treatment right now, do you know how many people in our state get treatment? 1 out of 10. So that means for every one of you all sitting here, there's 9 more out there that'll never get this, never get any form of it. With diabetes, we bat 8 out of 10. With hypertension, high blood pressure, we bat about 9 out of 10. So it's a privilege, and it is really a privilege to be in treatment. There will be folks that can never get there. And those medications used in the right way have the potential to help folks, but they're grossly mismanaged in our state. And that's the whole reason I went to Nashville. That's the whole reason I got brought to Nashville in the first place, was to try to get a handle on that. I believe everybody deserves a chance at this, at what we're talking about. Yes, sir. Yes, there was somebody else right here. Sir.
Dr. Wood, I'm a meth addict now. We used to cook meth, but I had to deal with pills. And when I would get pill sick, you know, you just get on the phone, you call all day trying to find a pill. Then when you're so sick you can't stand to look at yourself, then when you find a pill and you're on your way to the pill, to get the pill, the sickness goes away. So, I think a lot of us in your head, I know you get physically feel sick, I know because I've been through it. But, I mean, what's up with that?
It is so cool. I'm so glad you said, because I had a short amount of time, because I usually talk about that. And if you, I'm going to take issue with you. If you say in your head and you mean imagining it, you're dead wrong. If you say in your head and it's a brain disorder, you're spot on. Okay? So what happens, or what he's describing is that you can be dope sick, all right, going through withdrawals, and then get a prescription in your hand or be on your way to knowing you're going to get the pill, right? And you're already good. It's not in your head, it's actually real. It's the most amazing thing. So it's what I was telling you about cravings. So if you take somebody that's a crack addict, and you put the crack addict in a functional MRI scan. Now remember, a functional MRI scan doesn't look at brain structures, it looks at brain chemicals, okay? It looks at dopamine, norepinephrine, all those chemicals. And you show that crack addict a picture of a crack pipe for 33 1,000ths of a second, okay? It's so quick that after he comes out of the MRI scan, he will have no recollection that he saw a picture of the crack pipe. It's not even conscious. But look at his MRI scan. Boom! Blown up with dopamine, right? And that's what I was talking about with the craving. So you're exactly right. But what happens is that when you know you're getting ready to get it, you already get that dopamine release, which gives you that overall sense of well-being. And it's absolutely physiologic, and it's absolutely true. I used to do it all the time. One of my triggers right now still, sorry, Karen, CVS pharmacies. CVS is wearing me out. I don't like to go in them, right? Because I was always going there. And when I used to be dope sick and I got my hands on a script and I was headed to CVS, I felt better before I even got there. And I thought the same thing you did, but it's absolutely physiologic in your brain. It's absolute. I can give you another example, but it's for outside of here, okay? Yes. Hold on, I got one up here. There's somebody right over here that had their hand up next. Go ahead. You gave me the school bus answer, man. You got to go.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
I might have misunderstood you. Don't hate me if I did. But in my opinion, am I wrong for thinking when you said that, you know, that might be the best some people can do? I shot dope since I was 12 years old, 13 years old, and I did 3 strips a day for 4 years in the clinic, and through Jesus Christ, I'm brought to.
Oh, yeah.
Besides a hiccup, I'm 16 months clean.
Right.
You know, so I think anybody can do better
Well, yeah.
if they're willing to accept it.
So-
I took you wrong.
No, you didn't take me wrong. You took me right. But I want to caution you here about something. That's for you.
Right.
And so one of the things that I did, and golly, I'm going to tell on myself, and I hate when I do this. I've been clean for about 3 years, and I used to look around and I saw these people that were still using, and I thought, what are they doing? Well, why can't they do what I did? Well, what's that?
Don't get me wrong. Sponsor me.
No, I promise I have a point here. That's my own pride, and it's my own ego. Ego's easing God out, by the way. That's what it stands for. So my own pride and my own ego said, these people can't do what I've done, and so it must be me, and I'm sticking my chest out. And then I started to look around a little harder and did some introspection, thanks to a really good friend of mine who serves as my sponsor. And I realized that I had 90 days of high-quality inpatient treatment. I had 5 years of aftercare and follow-up. I had advocacy for the Tennessee Medical Foundation, which allowed me to keep my medical license, and I had a 6-figure income. That's pretty arrogant, right? And so what I've done through the years, and I love what you've done, and you're exactly right. There are people who can't do that or won't do that. I'm not willing to just let them die. I can't work with anybody from the beyond. I can work with them here. And so I just really set all those things aside. There are so many forces right now that are against what we're trying to do. There's evil in the world. And if we're fighting among ourselves over this or that, I want everybody to have a shot at recovery. If I get somebody in my clinic or I get somebody that comes to Journey Pure and they're on methadone or buprenorphine, my goal is to get them abstinence-based. If I can't, I promise you I'm not showing them the door, because then that becomes a condition. I'm going to try to keep them involved. I'm going to try to keep them doing the things that you're talking about. Because you're right. The answer is through what you're talking about. The answer is through Christ, and Christ is about community.
Amen.
I tell people all the time, I struggle with this because I wrestle with God. I wrestle with everything, mainly because I'm hard-headed and egotistical. But I don't see God in burning bushes, and he's never called me up on a mountain to, give me stuff in Chiselstone. It hadn't happened to me. But I see God in other people. And I see it all the time. And when I do that, and when I allow those other people that I see God in them to be in my life is better. And your life will be better. Some people aren't there. Some people are the bright light variety. Right? If you in AA speak, Bill W. talks about this. Some people are bright light. Others are the slow drip variety. So I did the same thing that you're doing, and I would encourage you to just welcome everybody in no matter what. Amen. Yeah, I think I see something back there.
Dr. Lloyd,
Oh, no, that's Greg. Don't ask me a question, Greg. I recognize the voice. I can't see the face. Yes, Greg.
you were right. We did a lot of sinning together. It was fun.
Well, that's debatable, but
But at the same time, as we both mature, I would like to know what you would share about the importance of being able to forgive yourself.
yeah.
You believe you're unforgivable because
Yeah.
of the redemption and forgiveness you've received.
Yeah, that's a great point, Greg. This is the hardest thing that I deal with on a day-to-day basis with my patients, but it's also the hardest thing that I deal with personally. The story I told you earlier about stealing the medication from a dying cancer patient, that was my deepest secret. I thought I would take that one to my grave. And the only time that I got free from that was being able to walk through my own shame and becoming vulnerable with a group of people that loved me and being able to tell them that. And when I tell that story now, I tell it for a different reason. I tell it because I know there are people sitting out here that have things inside of you that you can't let anybody know about. And I'm not telling you to go put it on the front page of the Knoxville Sentinel, all right? But I am telling you that the only way that you get free from that is to open up and let it out, no matter how bad it is. And when you do that, it was the whole point about my Sunday school class. So, Greg, it's the most powerful thing that happens in recovery. I'm a big Brene Brown fan, and I don't know if there's anybody in the room that knows Brene Brown. If you are interested at all, just look at her TED Talk. She's an expert on vulnerability, and Ninja Warrior move number 2 in dealing with shame is for me to treat myself like I would treat somebody that I really loved. So if my son had this problem and he had done these things, how would I treat him? I think, pretty sure that I would be open and meeting in a loving place and try to help him. But when it comes to me, I don't treat myself that way. I start like you've done it a couple of times tonight, right? You start heaping stuff on yourself right off the bat. And you don't have to. All of us fall short, big time. I thank God every day for no justice, because I'd be in the jail to the year 2500, right? And if we're able to achieve what, being able to do it ourselves, then we don't need Christ. And we all need that. And that goes for the teetotalers in the room. That goes for people that have never touched anything. They have things in their own life. And that's why the addiction story, Greg, I think is so powerful. Because it doesn't matter if you've ever drank. It doesn't matter if you've used a pill. Everybody in the room's been wounded. Everybody in the room's been knocked down. And you realize that really the only way to get back up is the redemptive power of Christ. And so it's a great question. It's the hardest thing that I still struggle with, because I will let that shame creep on me. And when I do, I'm not willing to become vulnerable. I'm not willing to share with the people that are important to me what's going on inside of me. And usually when I get there, I'm starting to spiral down. And I've got to have somebody in my life that looks at me, puts their arm around me, and guides me back. Did I answer your question?
Love you, brother.
You too, boy.
Got one right there.
What, honey, I promise you got to tell her.
Go ahead.
You really can't see anything.
How much experience have you had with the Vivitrol shot?
A ton. I'm a huge fan.
I've been on it for 8 months. It's changed.
Oh, outstanding. I love it. So let me tell you all about Vivitrol if you don't know what it is. It's a non-narcotic. Has no street value. It blocks the opioid receptors in your brain, and it helps with cravings. Remember I told you, people continue to use because of cravings. Okay? I thought when I was using it, if you just get me through being dope sick, I'll be fine. I can't believe how stupid that is, but that's what I thought. And I'd keep getting through being dope sick, and then 3 months later, I was back doing the same thing. And I didn't have a clue. And the problem was cravings, and I'd get cued, and next thing I know, I was using the same amount that I was 3 months ago before I stopped. What Vivitrol does, it's an injection in your rear. It lasts for a month. It blocks the opioid receptors in your brain, and it quells cravings. It's really, because a lot of use is impulse. And I was talking to a gentleman in the back of the room before we got started, and he had something, pretty dramatic happen in his life, and he had a slip. And just think if you had something that would block the effects of that long enough for you to get to somebody who could help you, because if you knew if you drank or you used drugs, it wasn't going to do any good. Because if you're on Vivitrol and you take heroin, it's not going to do you any good.
It's like the naloxone.
It is naloxone. It's naltrexone, so it's exactly.
It's like pure naloxone.
Yep. I'm sorry. I heard somebody else over here talk.
It's not affordable, and you can't get prior approval for it with most insurance. So how do you fix the problem?
Well, there's several things. First of all, it's covered by most insurances now, even TennCare. The other thing is as much as I don't like pharmaceutical companies, if you meet the requirements from a financial standpoint, they'll actually give it to you. And outside of that, it's available in all of our drug recovery courts. It's a program that I helped start when I was with the state. So those are some avenues to get it. But you make a great point. And this is one of the things that wears me out. Let's talk about that for a second. Anybody know how much it is? It's a shot once a month. How much would you think it'd be? It's $1,000 or $1,100. Do you know how much a Percocet is in the pharmacy? 2 cents. It's about 5 cents. Well, we have to make recovery as affordable as. Really. You can go to a pharmacy and they won't bat an eye about giving you a prescription for 90 oxycodone or 100, 270, how many ever, it doesn't matter. But then when you try to get medication like you're talking about here, there's so many blockades. First of all, you got to have a prior approval. No doctor in his right mind wants to do a prior approval. It's a lot of paperwork. Nobody wants to do the faxing. It's a pain in the rear end. I know. That's what I'm talking about. And so you have guys, our system is messed up. And these are things that we're working. I can see you all from here. The system is messed up. So you're exactly right. We have to make those things and make them available to people without undue burden. And it's one of my problems with medication-assisted treatment. We've talked about it a little bit, but most of the Suboxone clinics I saw around are cash only. They're $100, $150 a month, or not a month, a week. So that's $600 a month plus the medication. Okay, yeah, it's unbelievable that medication is $8 a strip. So look at how much money that is. You're going to have to do the same thing, and that's why I love abstinence. I don't have to worry about that. But we absolutely have to change the system because the system right now is propped up to keep the addict down and keep them in slavery.
Have they got the naltrexone pill affordable now?
The naltrexone pill is very affordable, but it's short acting and not as effective as in the
For like 8 months.
yeah. It really, it's amazing. We're sitting in this room and I realize we got a skewed population, but you probably run into multiple people in your day-to-day life who are using Vivitrol and you have no clue. They do really, really well. It helps them. And remember, if we can keep cravings at bay for 2 years and we give their frontal lobe time to wake up, now we're cooking with gas. All right? Somebody over here. Yes, ma'am.
My 31-year-old daughter is incarcerated in Florida.
Yes, ma'am.
This is her 30th conviction. This time each time it just gets worse and more intense. She writes and says, it's really hard. It's really hard being in jail and prison because, a lot of the talk is about drugs and that kind of thing. What do you suggest? She wants, I write her, I drove to Florida last week to just show up at her court date to show her I